Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Developing a Winning Combination for Social Media Integration. Special thanks to Aquint for sponsoring the webinar and for giving us some insights into how marketers can find staffing solutions to fit their marketing needs. My name is Justin Bridigan. I'm with MarketingSherpa, and we're broadcasting live today from our Mech Lab studio here in Jacksonville, Florida. Now I'll be your host, and I'm going to get us started. I've got with me John Hosier.
Hello everyone.
And I've got Will Duke is here with us as well.
Hello everybody.
They'll be monitoring questions and making sure this is a great experience for you today. Now we have only 60 minutes and we've got tons of content, so let's go ahead and get started as I introduce our expert speakers for today. Okay, with us I've got Casey Bauer. She's a senior research analyst with MarketingSherpa, and she focuses on search marketing and is the lead author of the new Inbound Marketing Handbook and also the lead author of the 2012 Search Marketing Benchmark Reports. That's both the SEO and PPC editions. Casey is also a co-trainer for the MarketingSherpa B2B Advanced Practices Workshop, and she speaks on the topic of mastering essential lead generation and lifting results. Casey, you've been very busy. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Hey, happy to be here.
All right, and to my side here I've got Dr. Chuck Coker. He is a human capitalist strategist for Mech Labs, and he has developed over 50 training programs for personal and career development, as well as achieving the title of Senior Professional in Human Resources. Now, he's been the guest lecturer at universities like Auburn and Harvard and Moscow State. He also is the lead author of our new Executive Guide to Marketing Personnel Benchmark Report. Chuck, it's good to have you with us.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Justin.
All right. Thank you for both of you spending your time, and we're going to jump right in. We're going to tell you how you can join the conversation with us today by using the hashtag #SherpaWebinar. We'll be monitoring that. And, of course, you can always fill out your question box in the left-hand corner. Now, just remember, as we get a lot of these questions, we will have the presentation for you after this webinar is concluded. So make sure, and we'll get that to you right after. Now, our goal here at MarketingSherpa, we want to tell you a little bit about us. And most importantly, what we're going to be talking about today is how research really influences our webinars. And here at MarketingSherpa, we have the most up-to-date research and best practice tactics for really improving your marketing performance. So really, how do we do this? Well, we survey thousands of marketers, and each one of them help us find what works and what doesn't. And from that, we yield targeted benchmark reports and guides, and also handbooks. Now, through that, we take that knowledge, and then we're able to teach marketers how to apply those best practices in webinars like this, and also through certification training, summits like our upcoming Optimization Summit in Denver. And really, this is an ongoing entire cycle, and it's really fueled from marketers like yourself that give us the great feedback. Now, we've been asked before, really, tell us a little bit about your library. Well, we have surveyed more than 48,000 marketers. You can imagine there's a lot of data there. And we've collected nearly 5,000 pages of analytical commentary on those marketing insights. And really, from that, we've made more than 6,000 charts and data tables. This is really what's working and what's not in marketing today. So you can validate that experience, and we use it on these webinars to give you that research that you're looking for. Now today, let's jump right into what we're going to be talking about. First, we're going to talk about some of the key findings in social media integration. We're going to use the research, and we're going to search into email marketing as well. We're going to talk about some of those recommended practices for really how you can integrate your search and your social and email programs. Now, finally and last, we're going to talk about some of the expert insights from the new 2012 Executive Guide to Marketing Personnel, which really details how you can attract and develop really unique and necessary characteristics of individuals, whether it's search, email, or social marketers. So with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Casey to help us get started. Casey, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Well, to kick this off today, I want to start with this question because this question is really why we're here today, and that is, how can marketers be successful with social media integration? And the answer is people and practices. It really needs to be both, because despite all of these exciting opportunities that social media has brought about and that social media continues to present, search and email marketers cannot fully realize all of the benefits from social media integration unless they have the right people and the right practices in place. And it's this combination, because while skills and abilities are important, not to mention the right mix of tactics, many of which we're going to cover today, the key to ultimate program success lies with the people running it and their fit for a job and the overall work environment. And what makes this more challenging is that most marketers, and I would venture to say many of you here on this call today, wear many hats. And so that's going to position you for success in some areas, but for mediocrity and even failure in others. So all of that kind of begs the questions, how can organizations be successful with social media integration? And what is this winning combination? How do you strike the right balance when it comes to people and practices? Well, to answer that, we're going to tackle it in 3 parts. So we're first going to look at the practices of integrating social media with SEO and then with email. And then we'll wrap up by delving into expert insights on how you can attract and develop the unique and necessary characteristics of successful search, email, and social marketers. So let's get into it, and let's start with some research. As Justin mentioned, we build these webinars around our research, and so here are a couple of key findings. And the big thing with these 2 charts is that more marketers on the value of integration than actually practice it. 3/4 or 76% agree that organic search listings are linked to social media content, and so integrating these 2 disciplines. So, 3/4 agree, but less than half are actually practicing integration. And I kind of liken this to, sometimes how we approach exercise or healthy eating or energy conservation. Take healthy eating. I know in my head, head knowledge, I read and hear it all the time that I should have 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. I know this. I feel better when I eat that way. But I don't always do that. I don't always follow through. I don't always make it to the store. I'm in the mood for something else. I'm craving carbs. Whatever the reason may be, my actions don't always follow my beliefs. And I think that's kind of the case for a lot of marketers when it comes to social media integration. Before I move off this slide, I'm going to quickly address a question that came in from Jill. And she had asked if we had any research into how many companies are actually using social media besides getting a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page and a Twitter account. Now, we didn't ask that question specifically, but there's an underlying question that we did address. And that is how organized companies are with their social media efforts. And we found in our research that 1/3 of organizations have absolutely no process or guidelines in place for their social marketing efforts. Half have some rough guidelines. They sporadically kind of apply these when it comes to planning, measuring, and executing their programs. So, the bottom line is that the research suggests that many companies are not doing what they could be doing with these networks. In other words, they may have set up those accounts, that you were mentioning, because it's pretty easy to set that stuff up, but they're not using social media to its potential. So what are some of the key benefits of integrating social with SEO? Well, the benefits are considerable, and let me just touch on a few here. One, you can generate more relevant SEO-friendly content. Social media can be a great content generator. You can increase the number of inbound links. And we all know that links are this powerful influence on the web. You get a link from an authoritative site that's going to lend you credibility. A link from a popular site sends you traffic. Both boost your search results. How about the one down here? Make it easier for prospects and customers to find the information they want. There's a lot of ways you could go with that benefit. One way that it makes it easier is because you're able through social media to tap into all this real-time discussion and feedback and language. All of that can guide your future content development decisions, even your product development decisions in some cases. You're creating information that your customers want to have. So kind of tied into that, let's look at this next key finding, which is that marketers believe social media amplifies SEO. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at the bottom data point, you'll see that only 18% of marketers practicing integration use social media to maintain current search rankings. And that's the operative word here, maintain. Because by contrast, the majority are practicing integration to do more. Check out those verbs. You've got increase and improve and create more. It's all about doing more with social media to see improvements in your organic rankings, your online visibility, your traffic, your opportunities. I also think this chart can help answer another question that came in from Fennel, asking, how do you encourage adoption when the participation in social media is non-essential, non-mission critical? And a lot of organizations are still in that stage. And I think this is where a chart like this can really help you make a case to your management team or your internal team. Sometimes it's your own marketing colleagues. Take each of these goals and pose them as a question. So for example, ask, do you want to see us improve our current search rankings? Do you want us to increase the number of our inbound links, increase our click-through rates through SERPs? If the answer to any of those is yes, if the answer to all of those is yes, then point out that active participation in social media can support these goals. So let's get into some of these practices, some of these practical actions that you can take to integrate SEO and social. And we're going to cover 8 of them. And so let me just jump right into the first, and that is that before engaging in any social marketing program or tactic, remember that your SEO goals must take a backseat to your audience's experience. When you're engaging with social media, your primary concern has to be addressing your customer needs, interacting with your audience, and providing good content. Within those parameters, though, there are still many opportunities. You can be on the lookout for those opportunities to use social media to distribute keyword-rich content, attract links, all of which can boost your natural search rankings. The next is to optimize your social media profiles. Now, your team does not have control, or at least much control, over the design of Facebook fan pages or Twitter feeds. But you can control the content on those pages, on those profile pages. And when you optimize the content on those profiles, that can help you get more first-page search results for your brand. Remember, search engines index this content and they list a brand's social media profiles and search results. So with that in mind, use your brand name for your account name whenever possible. When you can strike this one-to-one match between your brand name and your account name, you're going to appear more often in search results. Also make sure that all of your social media profiles link to your website. Now why is that important? Well, one, it ties the two properties together, but also the links that are placed in the profiles, those are not no-follow links, meaning they are going to provide link value. Also describe your company using your brand keywords. The next is use keywords in status updates. Now, as we mentioned in point 1, your primary concern with social media, and this would include writing status updates, should be to address your audience and improve their experience. But your secondary concern, and this is where the SEO social tie-in really comes together, is to include targeted SEO keywords every time you post to social media so that you take advantage of those real-time search features. That's going to help you build keyword relevance. Now, with these keywords in mind, you can also find keywords by using trend research. And trend research is great for targeting hot, real-time search keywords. Use tools like Google Trends or the trending topics list on Twitter search. Those will give you a glimpse into topics that are real hot on the web, that are getting a lot of attention, a lot of discussion. So scan those resources, identify relevant topics, and then quickly generate content that may help attract searchers. Point 4 is to distribute content via social media to build links. Now, social media marketing, and we saw that it's a goal for so many companies, is to increase the number of inbound links. So it is a great way to generate inbound links. And some tactics that really have proven successful using social media include syndicating content, on-site social sharing tools, and internal linking. So syndicating links, that's going to help you build your audience and build out your reputation. Social audiences want to link to good, relevant, useful, entertaining content. So when you're creating content like this and generating content like this, you can then use social networks to distribute this content to a broad audience and entice, hopefully, followers to share and publish links. That's what helps your reputation. Your reputation, in turn, is what helps you establish your authority in your market. That then is going to translate to natural links coming back to your site. In terms of the on-site sharing tools, add these buttons to your pages. That makes it easier for visitors to share your content with their networks. Finally, on-site social media like the blogs, the forums, the message boards that you might have on your site. Those can help improve your site's internal linking strategy, so don't overlook that. Encourage your community reps to include links to relevant portions of your own website during online discussions. Number 5 is to target social news and bookmarking sites. Now, social news aggregators like Dig, Reddit, they can generate a rush of traffic and new links for content that receives prominent placement. And if you're not familiar with how these sites work, they let their communities vote on submitted content. And the number of links, or excuse me, the number of votes will dictate a link's prominence on the site. Now, it's true that many links don't always make it to the front page of these sites, or it's very infrequent, but a strategy, this type of strategy, really can pay off for you when they do. So review your content to see what could be repurposed for social news sites. In terms of choosing a social news website that might be good for you, you want a good fit for your company and for your brand. And you can gauge this by reading articles, reviews, any type of resource about that site. Also look for those that have the potential to generate the most traffic to your website. Then you need to determine also if the website is going to cover your topic area. So for example, let's say the topic of your blog is about web design. Well, you'd want to choose a social news website that covers web design issues. And there are so many different types, from those that cover many different topics, very broad, to those that are focused around specific niches. And one example of a niche site is Small Business Briefs. And you can see here on the screenshot on the bottom lower left, it's a small niche site. It focuses on small business topics like marketing, sales, management, entrepreneurship. Another niche site is Tipped. If you're in the finance arena, it's for users who love to read articles about finance, investments, and business. So, there are a lot of sites out there. When you find one that you think might be a good fit, then it's important that you interact with other users that are on the site that you're looking to join. Get into discussion, share your thoughts, comment on other news and stories, give your opinions. Think of all these things that you can do to build relationships and gather friends within the community, because you never know when those relationships will really help you down the road in supporting your marketing of your website or your product. The next thing to consider is to encourage social, number 6, I skipped ahead, is to protect your online reputation. Now, reputation management is a search and issue. Your customers will talk about your brand in social media, and then potential customers find this information through searches, whether those searches are done on a traditional search engine or on a social site. So because of this, reputation monitoring has to be a central piece of your social media integration strategies. So to that end, monitor online press, monitor online conversations, review sites, looking for any type of negative commentary about your brand. And if you run across this, when appropriate, reach out and try to address those complaints and resolve the issue on the same page that's hosting the complaint. That way, visitors who discover a complaint or a negative review through search, they're also going to see your response. Number 7 is to encourage social networking on your website. Now, you can add so much relevant content that's able to be indexed by search engines to your site simply by hosting social features and fostering an online community. Now, to really get an online community to form, it usually happens when there's a lot of activity, and that comes from regularly publishing and responding to valuable content. Now, it takes time to build a rich community like that, a community that's invested, that regularly posts to forums and message boards, but start small and expand your efforts over time. And one way to do that, and probably the best way to do that, is to start a blog, or if you already have one, as so many companies already do, recommit to it, especially if it's been a stagnating effort. Within your blog, make sure allowing for comments and ratings, reviews, because adding these features to your site can foster that community interaction and also generate relevant content. Make sure that this blog and forum content is clearly visible to search spiders. Not all platforms out there are designed to be easily indexed by search engines, so consult your vendors and your search experts to make sure that you have this point covered. And finally, monitor your website's social features for spam. A good way to protect against spam is to make sure that all external links are no-follow, with the no-follow tag. That way they're not going to provide any search engine value, and that will render them less attractive to link spammers. So our last point in the search and social integration is to closely coordinate your search and social team. Search and social data are very complementary. Search data is great for figuring out the in-demand key terms that have high search volumes, high competition, whereas social is wonderful for hearing consumer language, identifying maybe upcoming topics and trends. So just like the data is complementary, your team should also work and coordinate closely with each other and complement each other's efforts. They can benefit from each other's data and analysis. So you want to keep those lines of communication open. In terms of practical ways they can help each other, if you're on a search team, there might be times when you suggest that certain social media activities focus around specific keywords, like putting at least one of your target keyword updates in a Facebook update, for example, if it applies to that message. The search team then can also get information from the social team. Ask the social team, like when they're doing their web monitoring, any keyword trends that they've identified, because all of that can really aid the search team in putting together their keyword list and developing out their keyword list. So that wraps up part one. Let's now turn our attention to social media's positive influence on email marketing. So what are email marketers telling us? Well, 31% say engaging social media audiences is a very important email objective. And a fun example of this comes from Career Builder. And this is an example from their promotion of their 2011 Super Bowl commercial. Now the week leading up to that game, Career Builder sent out an email and they announced the much anticipated return of the monkeys to their advertising campaigns. And if you've seen the Career Builder commercials, you'll know what I mean when I'm talking about the monkeys. And in this email, posted a link to the TV ad in which people who liked their Facebook page could preview the ad before the rest of the world did on Sunday's game. So it was a fun way to engage their social media audiences through email. Email and social media are also complements, and here's a couple of data points that stress that. 75% of daily social media users say that email is the best way to communicate with them, compared to 65% of all email users. 49% of Twitter users say they made an online purchase because of receiving an email, compared to just 33% of all email users. So you can see that social media does enhance email's effectiveness. So just like we looked at with SEO and social integration, here are 7 tips for how you can integrate your email and social programs. So let's walk through these. And the first is how to use social to create a new audience. Now social networking definitely can improve email marketing efforts by helping create or build out a new target audience. But, and this is important to keep in mind, just because you're starting to gather a lot of followers or new likes, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of those people are the perfect target audience yet. And the reason is because liking a company or following somebody, it's just a click of a button. It's a really low risk, low commitment action for people. But the silver lining for companies is that even though it's a low risk, low commitment action, it's an entrance. It's like a foot in the door for a brand to start that conversation towards conversion. How? Because if you can move a consumer from a casual conversation, conversations that typically happen more through social networking sites, to email, which is that communication channel that really enables you to send the right message to the right people at the right time, that's what's going to turn your conversations into conversions. The next tip is to incorporate the customer's voice. Sharing content has never been easier than today, and that includes email content. I mean, you can see how email content is shared and discussed without delay in real time across all kinds of social networking sites. So the benefit to you and your email efforts is that you can use social media to refine the tone and language of your emails, adjust your offers and content, gain access to not only feedback on those elements, but other real-time feedback that can help you. Look at endorsements, reviews, ratings, and consider capturing those and using that as content for your next targeted email messages. Third tip is to find clarity through competing choices. Now, marketers have so many choices at their disposal today. And with so many choices, they can be more selective about the tactics they implement. And that includes when and how they install email campaigns into the marketing mix. Now, when it comes to email and social, we're seeing some brands make some interesting choices. For some brands, they're choosing to use email to communicate and carry forth those formal exclusive offers. And they're reserving social, and they're perhaps finding that social is better suited for entry-level offers. So figure out what choices will work best for you, your offers, your message, and your mix. Point 4 is to encourage sharing by design. First of all, be selective. Not every email message that you have is going to be a fit for social sharing. The content has to be pertinent. It has to be interesting enough to motivate your subscribers to want to share it. And that's something that you can control in part. So choose the messages that you believe your audience will see as relevant, will see as interesting enough to pass on to their friends and their colleagues. And then format that content to make these very easy to share. The second thing in terms of design is to consider your subject line wording carefully. What makes a subject line stand out in a social media feed may or may not be the same thing that makes it jump out in an email inbox. Many social sites like Twitter, as an example, they're going to use your email subject line as the default text when it's published. Twitter also has that 140-character limit for its updates, so your subject line should be shorter to allow space for the post to be read. Number 5 is to use share with your network buttons. And these buttons function much like a forward to a friend link, and they quickly became standard practice for a lot of marketers, so these aren't necessarily a new thing. Our 2011 Social Media Marketing Benchmark Report uncovered that 55% of organizations do include these. So it's not like 100%, it's only 55%. But what was more startling is that only 10% of organizations found this to be an effective strategy. So there's a gap. And why is there that gap? Well, I think the simplest answer is that an effective strategy for social sharing buttons is going to be something much more complex and much more involved than just placing a few links at the bottom of your email message. Best practices around these buttons are still emerging, but the reality is that content not only needs to be relevant, but it needs to be written in an easy-to-promote manner. So again, it goes back to this idea of content. Is the content relevant, interesting, entertaining, so on and so forth? In other words, is it something that people want to share? If so, those buttons will just make it easier for them to share it. So if you are using these buttons, you want to figure out which buttons to use, look at your audience and look at your subject matter to determine the best buttons. Facebook and Twitter, those are dominant social sharing buttons used in email, but our research has shown, not surprisingly, that LinkedIn is an option that's used by 75% of B2B organizations that are using these social sharing buttons. You want to start with no more than 3 buttons, prominently display them, and then perform tests on their effectiveness. If you have too many buttons, that's going to overwhelm the reader and paralyze them in the sharing process. Number 6 is to strive for communication consistency. Be what your customers expect no matter where they find you. And a good example of this is McDonald's. No matter where you go in the world, those fries always taste the same. I myself have had them probably in about 7 different countries, and I think every single place they have been fabulous. So be what your customers expect when it comes to your communication channels. And what that means is that you first need to figure out what communication consistency means for you. There is no standard out there for content sent via email and social. it's different for every company because every company is unique based on its sales process, its customers, its objectives. And so what we're finding is that there's no common standard, but then that also means that companies are doing things differently when it comes to their different channels. So for example, some companies are writing the same message to both channels. And what's bad about that is, or at least unfortunate about that, is that you can miss an opportunity to use a different channel to communicate a different message, or at least a different twist on a message. Not only that, but consumers often check and compare messages across channels if they have that type of interaction with you to select the medium that's going to deliver the most relevant, helpful content. So if you're adding no additional value in one channel, they're not going to bother engaging with you through that channel anymore. Other businesses, by comparison, have been able to identify that their social media followers are in different stages of the buying cycle than email subscribers, and they tailor their content accordingly. So the bottom line here is that make sure you're consistent and you meet your subscriber or follower expectations for that particular channel so that trust is not broken. And our last point is to listen, learn, and measure. It seems like it always comes back to these types of things. When you're opening up your email messages through social networks to people who may not initially be so familiar with your company, it's so vital that you're listening for communication gaps. What can really help you with this is to coordinate with your internal social monitoring team. Ask them to keep you informed with what's happening with your emails in the social sphere and the influence that these are having. Make the time to read what people are posting, what they're retweeting, so you can improve and clarify your brand's message. Also monitor the viral impact of your emails and the effectiveness that they're having so that you can optimize future campaigns. A lot of ESPs, they provide metrics that will show you how many subscribers shared the email on social networking sites, how many people clicked on email content coming from Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. All of those metrics are really going to give you insight into the additional reach that you're getting beyond your original distribution list and also help you determine what matters most to your audience. So that wraps up practice, which is the first half of our winning combination for social media integration. And now we're going to look at putting and keeping the right people in place. And to cover this important and often overlooked, and I really want to stress that, I think it is overlooked, component of successful social media integration, I'm going to turn this over to our human resources expert, Dr. Coker. But before he gets into his material, we want to run a quick poll. And we're running this because we want to get a better sense of what your marketing departments are grappling with when it comes to personnel issues. So of these 5 burning marketing personnel issues, which 2 would you like to see answered? And you can select, it is multiple choice boxes. So for example, what are the biggest mistakes that your CMOs or marketing managers are making when it comes to retaining good talent? What hinders marketing performance? Why are most marketers only somewhat effective rather than very effective? Why is turnover higher with marketers than most employees? That's something we found in our research. If there's one thing that you could do to keep marketers, the #1 way to keep good marketers, do you want to know what that would be? And finally, the last question is successful department in 2 key parts. This means what are the 2 key ingredients for a successful marketing department? So pick the top 2 that you want to address, and Dr. Coker will answer those as we go forward. So I will pass it on over to you now, Chuck, okay?
Thank you so much, Casey. I appreciate the good information that you shared with us so far. And it's really exciting to be able to talk with you about this next part because, we can have all the tips that we need, but if we're not integrating it properly into the departmental structure, we're going to have problems. And one of the problems, unless you're, of course, a one-man show, is how do we get the right people working together in search, email, and social media? having them interact well, and having them maximize the performance for what they're doing. So as we begin to look at that, I can see that overwhelmingly the two biggest questions that you have is, number one, what hinders marketer performance, and what are the two key parts to a successful marketing department. So with that information in hand, let's go ahead and begin to look at some of the things that we're going to cover. And that is, first of all, why is it useful to associate a field of employment with character traits? Well, it's extremely important because we know a couple things, and that is the fact that some people do some things better than other people, and it's all based on their character traits. One of the things that we know that we see every day in this is the fact that the whole person comes to work. In other words, it's not just a social media expert. It's an individual that has trouble with their kids, trouble with their spouse, as well as somebody who's a fun-loving person. You bring the whole person to work, and they bring specific habits, values, and preferences to work. So what we have to do is take all of those things into account when we talk about how do we get the most out of a social media, a search person, or an email marketing person. So the way that we can focus on that is by making sure that we have the right person in the right job. So we know that some people are really going to enjoy search marketing, but it may not necessarily mean that they're going to be great social media specialists. So people experience difficulties with different aspects of their jobs. I don't know about you, but I can tell you I have never found a perfect job. There's always going to be issues with a job. And what that tells us is that there's going to be some things that you do extremely well. For example, you may be fantastic at search, but some of the characteristics that are different about an email marketer may cause you stress. And that's what we want to focus on is getting the best fit and making sure that our team works together well to make sure that we are getting the most out of each person and they're working together well. So if you're a CMO, a marketing manager, or just a hiring manager for your company, what you want to do is make sure that you bring somebody in who's really fit for social media, who really enjoys that kind of position, who's not going to be stressed out at the end of the day from talking to people and trying to focus on new and different ways to make sure that the message is out. So it's important for you, too, that if you are a marketer in an organization looking for a place in another organization, you want to go someplace where your talents, your abilities can be utilized, and when you go home in the evening, you're not stressed out. I don't know about you, but just playing some classical music on the way home instead of Black Sabbath isn't going to make me feel one way or another. You've got to have a positive experience in work, or the day is going to be stressful. So let's take a look now at how we can help you focus and make sure that your personality pays off, regardless of whether you're a search specialist, an email specialist, or a social media specialist. I'm going to give you a little example of an organization that I worked with. They're the largest prepaid cellular phone company in the world. Their turnover was killing them. They were losing hundreds of thousands every month. And so what we did was we began to benchmark the positions. We began to find out what are the psychological traits of a person that works in the call center so that they can come to work and have fun rather than be stressed out at the end of the day. So we tested those things, and we found some unique attributes that were available. And when we did that, what we did was we benchmarked them and then followed them for the next 8 quarters. Once we had those particular traits in-house, understood them, and then began hiring people within those particular parameters, the turnover dropped 85%. 85%. That's not an exaggerate, 85%. Saved the organization over $600,000. So what does that tell you as an individual, whether you're looking for a person, whether you're hiring people for your department, is make sure that you have the type of person in the position that's going to have fun. Make sure that they have the attributes necessary so that they're not stressed at the end of the day. Because if they're stressed, I promise you the remainder of the people in your department are going to be stressed too. So let's take a look at how are the type of people who become marketers different from the remainder of the people in an organization. And I can assure you there's a huge difference. Now, the graphs on the left may not make a whole lot of sense to you, but let's go and take a look at some of the things that are underlined on the right-hand side of the slide there. First of all, you see that they are more decisive. That means they are strategic thinkers. They're better communicators. They're better able to get out there and tell them the message and make sure that it's communicated. They don't mind change. Matter of fact, a lot of them do very well with change, and they're more conceptual than detail-oriented. Now, if you had a marketer that was dwelling on the details and not dwelling on the concepts, you may not ever get anything done, and that's what we want to focus on. So a marketer also is not as focused on just going through a process, because just going through a process may not always solve the problem. What they're focused on is, what can I do to make this profitable? What can I do to make this thing work? How do I get a return on my investment in time and energy? So their focus is, let's find something that works. Let's not worry about the details. So the next thing that we see is that marketers are different in the fact that they work with values that may not be specific to the people that they're working with. And you and I both know that you may have somebody come in and say, I want this, this, and this done. And if you know right away that if you do that, the response is going to go through the toilet. And we have to literally take what we know is a better approach, despite sometimes what a customer might want, and whether that's an internal customer or an external customer. So the marketer is focused on the goal, and they're free thinkers. They're not tied specifically to corporate boundaries. They're not tied to doing things the same way every time. So that's very, very critical. So with that thought in mind, what we have to think about is the fact that marketers aren't motivated by the same things that motivate other employees. And if they're not motivated by the same things, what are they motivated for? Well, first of all, coming in with a corporate promotion isn't going to motivate most marketers. They want to be able to work in a scenario where they're saying, okay, the company can win, but I need to win too. I need to show you that I've got the chutzpah to get this done. I've got what it takes to make it happen. They want takeaway tools. You've been spending time with Casey here and I looking for tools, takeaway tools that will help you in your personal development. So you want to improve holistically, not just as a person, but as a marketer yourself. So as we begin to look, here's what we know about marketers that hiring managers need to know to make sure that you've got the right person. They've got to be strategic communicators, not interested in details, focused on results, and they're not so much interested in making the person happy as long as they're getting the results. And they may do it by some unconventional type methods. When we look at these charts, we know exactly that those are the key elements for hiring a marketer. If we hired marketers in the image of everyday employees, we're not going to be getting the results. They have to be unique. They have to be different, but they have to be unique and different in very special ways. So, as a marketing manager or as a CMO, there's a couple things that I want you to think about. Number one, there are some things that you can manage with your marketers. First of all, you can manage their competency. Can they do the job? Do they have the skills, the knowledge, the traits, and do they have the requisite abilities to function and respond in a particular way? That's something that you can manage. You can tell them what to do, and you can let them know how they're supposed to do it. But second of all, they have to have some character. Will they do the job? Will they be to work on time? Will they be doing the kind of things that will help them succeed? So competency and character, which companies focus on, are very important. That's what most people think about. But there's also something that the marketer is focused on, and that's, can I get along with the people in my work environment? Are they going to support me? Are they going to be able to do the things that are necessary to help me get to the next level? And then, am I going to be able to mature professionally? And, you know, it's what we talked about when we first started this discussion, and that is the fact that the whole person comes to work. You know, the number one desire by an employee under the age of 35 is, what can I learn that will benefit me holistically, not just on my job? They want to be taught. They want to learn. And in this next slide, you can see very plainly that the companies are going to focus on, can the marketer do the job, and will the marketer do the job? But the marketer's focus very plainly is, can I work well with the team that I'm working with? And am I going to be able to mature? And here's the key, is the company is focused on the task aspects, and the marketer's focused on the internal or the personal aspects. But what we often miss when we look at this, when we look for email specialists, social media marketers, as well as search marketers, is we forget that if we develop them, the competence goes up. And that meets the corporate need. You want the competence to go up, so help that person grow and mature professionally. So as we begin to think about that, what you want to think about is, how do we help them do that? Well, first of all, you can have one-on-one annual reviews where you complete and restart the cycle. You help them see not only what the department objectives are, but what their personal objectives are too. Because it's great to be part of a team, but you also have to meet the needs, because a marketer is a strategic thinker. They want to be patted on the back. They want to be told that they're good, and they're very strong in that area. Next thing is, we can hire and manage the competencies and character that fit the task. In other words, if you understand the person that's working there, you can manage those competencies. You can help them get to where they need to do, even if they're not highly creative by themselves. The next thing is that we cannot neglect to develop the chemistry of the department and the capacities of these players so that their competency level goes up. You know, one of the biggest issues that I hear from CMOs and marketing managers every single day is the fact that we don't have money in our budget to give our people training, to give them a higher degree of development and give them greater competencies. Well, I can assure you of this. From the thousands and thousands of marketers that I surveyed when I wrote the benchmark 2012 benchmark report, was the fact that there is a lot of information on the net. There's a lot of stuff that one group of your marketers knows that the other part of the marketers don't. Cross-train them, help them spread that knowledge around. You can have guest speakers in. You can download presentations. There's a lot of things that you can do as a CMO or a marketing manager that doesn't cost you a dime. You just have to figure out what the marketer wants. What do they need to increase their competencies and increase their capacities so that they move to that next level? Now, as we think about that, I want to give you a couple principles to optimize your marketers. The first one is, even though you may have behavioral benchmarks like we did in that case study that I shared with you just a few minutes ago, it's impossible to hire somebody that's going to fit that benchmark perfect. There's going to be a little bit different. So what you have to do is focus on a type of person, someone that's a strategic thinker, someone that's a communicator, someone that's open to change, someone that's more concerned about the concepts of marketing more so than the details of marketing. Then you have the right person in-house. And then you can begin to do the things that are necessary to manage their strengths and focus their strengths in a way so that they become more competent. Second thing is you can only manage the competencies and character. You cannot manage the chemistry and the capacity for an individual. Those are things that you have to promote and develop. Those are things that you as a manager have to do in your department to make your department better. Management skills will not allow you to develop people, and developing people is the key to increasing their competencies, making the person holistically better, and therefore getting a better social media specialist for the money that you invest in them. The fourth principle is one that's critical. You have to possess a winning strategy in order to retain your marketers. That winning strategy comes from inside your head. It doesn't come from laws and rules and regulations, policies and procedures that the human resource department's going to shove out to the marketing department, because they're not going to do it. The best HR can do is find you people that are generally adept and have some experience. You as a marketing manager have to do the things that are necessary to get to that next level. Now, how are marketing specialists, email search, social media specialists different? I'm going to run through these fairly quickly, but then I'm going to give you a summary very quickly. The search specialist's mind is focused more specifically on a process than about the content. They're focused on effectiveness. They're not concerned about incongruity during the developmental process. They want to accomplish the goal, and they are more in line with the corporate concept. So the email specialist, on the other hand, is one that is very specific about their goals and their end results. They are very focused on doing the right thing day in, day out, making things happen in a very specific manner. They have to have a payoff. Otherwise, as an email specialist, nothing's going to happen. They're not concerned about incongruity. They know what works. They're going to focus on that. And they may not agree with their client's thoughts, but they're going to approach it in a very unique way. And they're normally somewhat unconventional type people, which is okay. We can deal with that they're a little bit unconventional. So what about the social specialist? Well, the social specialist is very specific about their goals and their end results. They push very hard to make sure that they are achieving what they're after. They demand a payoff, but they go about it a very different way. You see, they focus more on the client's needs, even if they don't particularly agree with them, because they're trying to deal with something that has to do with people. They want to accomplish their client's goals, and they want to do it the way the client wants us to do it. And as you can see at number 10, they are unconventional. They're going to do things very differently. They're going to do what it takes to make sure that the client gets done. So let's summarize that real quick. One of the things that we can focus on with the email specialists is that they have probably the stronger results orientation. They're focused. Their scope is a lot more narrow. They're not very idealistic. They're not influenced by their clients, and they are not conventional. They focus right where they know it has to be. Now, a search specialist, on the other hand, may not be very communicative, but they have a strong results in orientation. They are influenced by their clients' needs, and that they are a little bit more conventional because they know what works in the search medium much better than the other people involved. Now, go back up to the top of that green slide and look at there. They are the most communicative. And what I mean by that is they are the ones that are going to ask the most questions. They're going to try to find out what it is that needs to be achieved during this process. They, like the social media specialists, are going to be more communicative. They're going to talk, they're going to focus on strong results orientation, and they're more influenced by their clients, and the social media is the most unconventional of the group. So here's what you can glean from this particular slide, and that is the fact that search and social media specialists probably could work together pretty well and have a tendency to be able to relate more to each other than, shall we say, the email specialist, who has a stronger focus on getting things done in a very particular way. So as we talk about moving together as a group and as a department, these are some key elements that will help you accomplish your goals.
All right. Thanks, Chuck. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Casey, for talking about some of those key findings on how you can really integrate your social media efforts. And it was great that we were able to kind of talk about some of those best practices. We got a lot of questions, a lot we couldn't get to that we'll get to a little bit later. And then, Chuck, we really appreciate that insight into really what are the differences between some of these marketers. I know that on my own team, each one of them has their own skill sets, right? Things that they're very special at. But this type of insight can help me make better decisions when I'm working with them. So thank you very much with that.
You bet.
Really, a lot of you have asked questions about how you can build your own teams and how you can find the right team members. And some of today's biggest brands rely on Aquint's experience, knowledge to really staff their marketing, creative, and digital teams. So if you're looking to hire new talent or searching for work yourself, make sure that you visit aquint.com. And that's where you can find talent that works. And so I highly recommend that. Get a chance, visit them. They'll help you out for sure. Now, today, we went over a lot of research. We went through a lot of different stuff, from social marketing and inbound marketing to more of the executive guide in building your teams. So for you today, we have a special offer. You can save $100 on this research by using that promo code on this slide. I encourage you to do that. It's very opportunistic, be able to learn more about your team and also to grow your team and to grow your social media and inbound efforts. So thank you very much to all of those who are with us today. We appreciate all of your insights. We appreciate the speakers for sharing their time with us. And really, everyone, thank you for your time. Take care and have a great afternoon.